In Brazil, pre-candidates Lula da Silva and Jair Bolsonaro carried out political activities in the state of Sao Paulo to gather support for the October presidential elections. The Russian foreign minister assures that most foreign ministers at G20 meeting recognize unacceptability of Moscow's isolation. And in Sri Lanka, amidst popular and parliamentary pressure, the Prime Minister and the President agreed to resign from their posts. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Brazilian President and presidential pre-candidate for re-election Jair Bolsonaro participated this Saturday in a new March for Jesus in the metropolitan region of Sao Paulo. In this edition, the so-called March for Jesus was attended by the vice presidential pre-candidate Senator Simon Tebet. Besides them, the current governor of Sao Paulo, Rodrigo Garcia, and pre-candidate for re-election were also present. The March for Jesus is an evangelical event led by the Church Renacer in Cristo. It celebrates its 30th anniversary in 2022 and consists of a walk with concerts by gospel singers and preaching by evangelical pastors. Meanwhile, former President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva led a mass rally in defense of democracy, together with former Governor of Sao Paulo, Geraldo Alckmin, and the pre-candidate for the Workers' Party for the government of Sao Paulo, Fernando Haddad. The event vindicated the defense of democracy, the fight against hunger, unemployment, and lack of housing. The rally took place in the municipality of Diadema in Sao Paulo with the presence of several sectors of civil society and representatives of social and political movements, mainly those who are part of the Vamos Juntos por Brasil movement. In the framework of the commemoration of the 206th anniversary of Argentina's independence, President Alberto Fernandez called for unity to face the challenges to come. During the event, Fernandez was accompanied by the head of the National Cabinet, Juan Mansur, the President of the Chamber of Deputies, Sergio Massa, and the Governor of the province, Osvaldo Jaldo. President Fernandez highlighted the existence of powerful groups in the country that seek to cause destabilization and emphasize the sustained growth of the country from the end of 2021. Alberto Fernandez called on citizens to create spaces of unity and solidarity among Argentinians to face the challenges that will arise in the future. Bolivia continues its policy of consolidating respect for human rights and fundamental guarantees. On Friday, the Deputy Chamber of the Plurinational Parliament approved excessive compensation payments to the victims of political violence during the military dictatorships of 1964 and 1982. The bill adopted since June 30 is being analyzed by the Senate that recognizes the economic compensation to 1,714 victims of state violence during those periods of the 20th century. The victims have demanded the compensation for over 10 years and have been vigilant since 2012 in the city of La Paz. The Minister of Justice, Ivan Lima, highlighted the importance of honoring this duty of Bolivian state, which will mean an investment close to 15 million euros.
As soon as the government of President Arce took over the national government, a series of dialogue processes began with all the actors involved in this serious situation of violation of human rights. From 64 to 82, there are still many victims that have been subject to qualification. There were, for example, a group of people who had not received the initial 20%. This law will allow the Ministry of Justice to pay that 20% within one calendar year of the enactment of the law.
Miguel Díaz-Canel Bermúdez, President of Cuba, visited the community of Las Canteras, a neighborhood of over 1,600 people located in Playa municipality. He toured the area to evaluate the transformation process. Cesar Hernandez, first Secretary of Playa's Municipal Committee of the party, recalled that everything that is being transformed in the neighborhood has Fidel's imprint. During his tour, the Cuban head of state stressed that continuity is important in this transformation process. Participation and collective contribution help to transformation process whose fundamental purpose is to improve living conditions. President Díaz-Canel toured the multi-service centers, a medical doctor's office, as well as several homes and common areas where he held conversations with local residents to confirm that everything done there must also include the social aspect. A situation of vulnerability are reverted in this way and by incorporating increasingly more people to study and work.
This also helps these families grow up spiritually, grow up in potential, and that the new generation of this family can reach university studies. We make it easier for them. We prepare them so that they can develop their potential and take advantage of this opportunity for higher education. All this gradually accumulates a significant quality transformation in the family's life and the family's possibilities.
On Friday in Cuba, workers and firemen at the Lidio Ramon Perez thermoelectric power plant placed in Onglin managed to control a fire that broke out in Unit 2 of the facility. According to local media, so far no death or injured people have been reported in the area of the accident. The general director of the power plant, Osmal Maturel, said that after the flames were extinguished, Block 1 could be active again for its subsequent synchronization to the national energy system. He explained that after 2 p.m. local time, a leak occurred in one of the boiler tubes while the turbine of Block 2 was rolling, and the high temperatures of the boiler had caused the fire, which did not last more than an hour thanks to the immediate intervention of those responsible for the facility. The U.S. government announced uncertain visa restrictions for 28 Cuban officials as part of its policy of sanctions against the island, coupled with the tightening of the economic, commercial, and financial blockade. According to the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, these 28 employees of the Cuban government and members of the Cuban Communist Party will be banned from entering U.S. territory. The head of Washington's diplomacy specified that this measure is aimed at those who, in his opinion, allow or facilitated violent and unjust arrests, false trials, and prison sentences for those involved in the disturbances that occurred in July 2021. Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez described the visa restrictions as an act of aggression, as he stated that they are individual sanctions based on absolutely unfounded accusations. In the United States, surveys reveal majority disapprove of the Supreme Court's ruling which overturned the Roe v. Wade decision, which had guaranteed a constitutional right to abortion for nearly 50 years. According to a survey conducted by the Pew Research Center, 62% of respondents said they believe abortion should be legal in all or most cases. The majority of women, 47% according to the polls, disapprove of the decision, while 21% said they agree. Opinion among men is more divided, 52% disapprove while 47% approve. The court's decision to strike down Roe gives states the authority to set their own abortion policies. These laws vary widely, and in several cases, state laws that prohibit or impose strict restrictions on access to abortion are currently facing legal challenges. Women's March returns to Washington, D.C. with hundreds protesting in favor of abortion rights in the U.S. Capitol. Demonstrations started at 10 a.m. local time. These actions follow the Supreme Court's recent announcement of its decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, a 1973 court case that had guaranteed the constitutional right to abortion for almost 50 years without excessive government restrictions. Demonstrators also staged a sit-in at risk of arrest to send a message to President Joe Biden to protect abortion rights. We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back from the South. The Russian foreign minister assured that the majority of foreign ministers present at the G20 meeting in Bali, Indonesia, gave a clear sign on the unacceptability of Moscow's isolation. In a statement, Russia's diplomatic body said that during the meeting, the G20 countries discussed the negative consequences of unilateral Western sanctions, such as inflation caused in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, the destabilization of cross-border supply chains, and the complication of the geopolitical situation. The foreign ministers present also tried to find a single denominator to solve global socio-economic problems. The ministerial meeting was an important step in the run-up to the 17th edition of the summit, to be held by the heads of the G20 member states on 15 and 16 November, also in Bali. The body of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe arrived at his home in Tokyo on Saturday, a day after he was assassinated while making an election speech in western Japan. The car carrying the body left the hospital in Nara City, where he underwent an autopsy after he died of uncontrollable blood loss as a result of an attack on him. Several members of the Japanese party and government visited his home to offer their condolences. Presidents of other countries such as Alberto Fernandez of Argentina, Emmanuel Macron, as well as the Chancellor of Cuba, Bruno Rodriguez Barrilla, among others, also conveyed their condolences. In his speech on Saturday, the Prime Minister of Japan condemned the attack but refused to give in to violence and called for responsibility to complete these elections in a free, fair and safe manner. At least 16 people have died and a dozen were injured after flash floods at Indian Kashmir pilgrimage site. Emergency workers rescued thousands of pilgrims after flash floods triggered by sudden rain swept through their makeshift camps during an annual Hindu pilgrimage to an icy Himalayan cave in Indian-administered Kashmir, officials said Saturday. Authorities suspended the pilgrimage for 2 days as rains continued to lash the region. Officials also reported about 15,000 devotees were moved to safer locations and at least 5,100 were administered first aid at base camp hospitals set up for the pilgrimage, which is undertaken by hundreds of thousands of Hindus from across India. The president of Costa Rica, Rodrigo Chavez, declared a state of national emergency to deal with the damage caused by Storm Bonnie and the rain associated to it. From the government house, the president addressed the country to inform that the entire territory is affected by landslides that have paralyzed many areas, especially on Route 32. According to the data provided by the head of state, there are 276 houses in need of urgent repair. The number of landslides caused by the storm has already exceeded 150 in the northern part of the country alone. The president insisted in his speech on national television that people cannot wait and that trade and industry need urgent reactivation.
We have corrected our decision. Before, we had not made the declaration of emergency, and we are doing it today. You know what? We're doing it because we have to reopen those roads, repair the 152 landslides in the northern zone immediately. It is not enough to wait for people. Trade and industry, they cannot wait any longer. They need to push this country, and that is why today I am going to sign, after Senator Natalia Diaz signs the emergency decree, to attend to this with the required urgency.
In Costa Rica, the Institute for Research and Education in Nutrition and Health announced on Friday the documentation of a new variant of COVID-19 currently active in the south of the country. According to the Institute's report, the documentation of the new variant yielded different results from others that have been reported internationally. For this reason, it has been assigned as a recombinant XAF variant according to the classification system. The variant has also occurred in other countries such as Panama and the United States. Since February, cases of this subvariant have been detected in southern parts of the country, but in the last few weeks, cases have been reported in the provinces of Heredia, San Jose, and Limon. More news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back from the south. In Sri Lanka, amidst popular and parliamentary pressure, the Prime Minister and the President agreed to resign from their posts. Demonstrators from different regions gathered in the capital, Colombo, to reject the government's handling of the biggest economic crisis that the nation has faced since independence. The President, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, managed to leave the building surrounded by the protests to embark with his family on a military ship. Shortly after, the Prime Minister, Ranil Wickremesinghe, announced his resignation. After the evacuation, protesters seized the presidential residency and set fire to it. Parliament Speaker Mahinda Abeyewardene informed that the president will officially step down on July 13th to ensure a peaceful transition. Muslims around the world celebrate the Feast of Sacrifice, or Eid al-Adha, on Saturday, marking the end of the pilgrimage to Mecca. Eid al-Adha marks the end of the annual pilgrimage, or Hajj, and is celebrated in remembrance of Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his firstborn son Ismail to God as a test of his loyalty. According to tradition, Allah, seeing Abraham's righteousness, was merciful and stopped his hand before he cut off his son, and in gratitude Abraham sacrificed a lamb. Muslims all over the world, 20 minutes after sunrise, perform a special prayer, and then the head of each family is responsible for sacrificing an animal, in commemoration of the passage in the Quran. In Tunisia, the President Kais Saied announced the withdrawal of the constitutional renewal project after the violent events of the last few weeks. The draft constitution to be put to a referendum on July 25th was withdrawn by the President on Saturday after he admitted formal errors in the text. The decision was taken after the opposition, led by the Islamist Renaissance Party, called the day before for a boycott of the referendum, and the President of the drafting committee of the new constitution assured that the text put to the public opinion was not the original one. On Friday, the President, who has ruled by decree since the end of March when he suspended Parliament and dismissed the government, acknowledged criticism of the draft published in the official Gazette and announced that it would be amended. Syria's permanent representative to the UN, Bassam al-Sabak, has blamed the United States, the United Kingdom, and France at the Security Council to politicize and manipulate humanitarian aid to his country. The diplomat assures that his country gives priority to all humanitarian issues and devotes a deep effort to them, with the aim of satisfying humanitarian needs of its people and relieve the suffering left by the war and terrorism that they fight without rest. Confirms that the policies that Western countries want to impose are wrong and continue to be deceitful and fraudulent. The Syrian diplomat regretted that the Security Council refuses to adopt a resolution process presented by Russia and thanked Moscow for its veto on Western projects. In the Netherlands, farmers and ranchers protest government's move to reduce nitrogen oxide emissions. The order to close the most polluting farms and holdings to reduce nitrogen emissions has led to a blockade of the country by those affected. The plan aims for the sector to reduce its nitrogen oxide emissions by 40% by 2030. In several areas, tractors and trucks were used to block supermarket distribution centers. Protesters say that aid and subsidies are not enough for many who are forced to stop farming. Dozens of farmers have been arrested, and an investigation is underway into why police shot a 16-year-old teenager, the son of a farmer, during one of the protests. Officers claimed he was driving a tractor at the police in a threatening manner. The European Commission vowed to step up its work with Morocco to fight people smugglers following the death of 23 people at the Morocco-Spanish border 2 weeks ago. EU Commissioner for Home Affairs Ylva Johansson and Spanish Interior Minister Fernando Grande Marlaska met with Morocco's Interior Minister Abdelaouf Filaftit in Rabat to discuss the events of the June 24th, when hundreds of sub-Saharan migrants and asylum seekers attempted to storm through a border post and scale a border fence into Melilla. The European Commission has said in response it would enhance police cooperation with Morocco, including with joint investigations. Both Grande Marlaska and Johansson praised Morocco for its work, which, according to the European Commission, has prevented 26,000 irregular departures. After the death of the former Angolan president José Eduardo dos Santos, the citizens of the country have expressed their opinion and condolences. The national government decreed 5 days of national mourning due to the incident.
My feeling is deep related to that. It was painful when I heard about his death. I felt it a lot, knowing that he was someone who, if today we have peace, it's because of him. He was a mentor of peace. When I was born, I am 30-something now, he was already president. He did good things, and also naturally made huge mistakes, but his death made me feel very sad.
TeleSUR English continues to grow. Its signal now reaches Europe. You can order from your cable dealer or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on screen are in place since July 1st. Quite soon, further changes will be implemented for the signals in the Middle East and Africa. Now more than ever, the world connects to us and our stories are heard in other faraway nations. This news multi-platform will continue providing truthful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative and all faithfulness to our audience. And we have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.